dickweeds. It's time for the CHAIRQUISITION, and this week, Medieval 2 Total War trademark faces the CHAIRQUISITION. What is it? You never heard about it. Spanning the most turbulent era in Western history, your quest for territory and power takes you through... Yeah, it's a strategy fucking fighting game. Got it, right. Currently 19.99 wet stinky caches. This has been originally a Sega title. It was ported over by our good friends at Feral Interactive, and we're going to give it the business. But before we do that, it must face the CHAIRQUISITION. 1 chair means no. 2 chairs. Not sure if we want 3 chairs. Check it out. 4 chairs. Shut up and take our monies. But we also have our categories of doom mixed with a working, shiny and sounds controls, and fun. All right, let's get into this. Vin, what do you think? All right, other Vin. Yeah, come on, I had to do that. It's going to be brilliant. Over here on the Ubuntu 1404 LTS, 8150 octa-core powered 980 NVIDIA 4K displayed box of the business. Runs really good. I mean, performance is actually staggeringly great. Well over 100 FERPs at 1080 and between 75 and 90 at UHD. That's 2160. There's some problems though, Brad. All games listed in multiplayer are shown in red, and that means incompatible. You know, it's kind of a giveaway when in red it does actually say incompatible. P-Man and I, we were unable to connect in a special, like, fuck you way of unable to connect. We were both in their lobby chat room, but we were not able to see each other. We could not, it just did not work. But there's another thing. I mean, the game originally had a 4:3 aspect ratio. I was like, maybe I want to check that out with the expanded UI, because that kind of looks a bit ass, but I'll talk about that later. Could not get that to work. And where is the windowed mode? Seriously, it just was not there. So, it's not a good start. I'm going to give this 2 chairs, but it's not busted. It's playable. P-Baby.
No, it's empty right now.
Okay, well, on the AMD Phenom 2 X6 1100T, powered by the GTX 780 Ti computer, we were getting about 60 frames per second at 1080p. With everything on YOLO 11, and at 2160p, we were getting about 45 to 60 frames per second, which is pretty darn good, especially considering that I had VSync turned on, so there was no way I could go higher than 60. Everything started out pretty well, except for the constant spike crashes of, hello, here's your desktop again. No error messages, no nothing, just back at the desktop. I also had a hard lock during the first tutorial where there was nothing I could do except push the reset button. And you can't even run this game from the command line to see what is causing the crashes because it launches through Steam, no matter what. Earlier today, I said, why is this crashing like this? And I decided, you know what? Let's try clicking the auto detect settings button instead of just turning everything up to 11, which is why I bought a 780 Ti, by the way. And the game actually started working properly once I turned the settings down, but that's not the way I want to run games. So, 2 chairs.
Yeah, you see... All right. It actually hardened up my box during the second tutorial mission, and I didn't even touch the settings. Just left them default. I just went to see the controls and see what like the shortcuts and the keys to move the camera around were. That all worked great. But during the second tutorial mission, where you have that 4x type turn-based scenario going on, it hard locked my box. It hard locked it so bad that even if I did Control Alt F2 to like change to TTY2, it simply would not work. I had to fire up the netbook, SSH in, and kill the process. That was not good. And then I tried to start a campaign with Portugal, because obviously, and it did the exact same thing because the very first mission was one of those 4x type scenarios. So I don't know. This may have something to do with the 360 118 beta NVIDIA drivers, but the game didn't really justify me bothering to check. Now, I am playing this game on Fedora 23 64-bit with an AMD FX 8370E overclocked at 4.2 GHz and a GTX 970 Strix. So, considering that, I will give it 1 chair.
All right, so if we put all that nightmare fuel together, not looking good, Brad. That is, as he searches for his cursor, 1 chair. But up next, the shinnies and the sounds. So let's get into this. This game was released in 2006, so I'm going to be able to cut it some slack, Brad. Seriously, that was almost 10 years ago. Old, go feels it. And considering it's a real-time strategy, kind of tempted to say it holds up, ? Maybe. Except for that texture pop-in on the trees and the units. Giggity. I don't know why, but I did genuinely find that maddening, all kidding aside. That and the UI, even in the original version, is hella stretched when using 16:9 aspect ratio widescreen instead of 4:3. And don't even mention the minimal UI options, since that just puts your units, giggity again, on the bottom and everything else up on top, and that's just a ball of nope on a 4K display. It's a lot of triple travel, Brad. And why? Why was that an issue? In 2006, widescreen monitors were a thing. I had one. Granted, it did run at 1680 by 1050, but they weren't astronomically expensive. They were like 600 quid, about what you would pay for a decent monitor today. That's it for graphically. I mean, it's there. I actually think it still looks kind of all right with everything on Yellow Swag Dorito at 4K and for, a strategy type game. But let's talk about the sounds. All I can say is they air quote work because they were very difficult to hear over fuck mothering Dragon Force that I had blaring in the back. So, 2 chairs.
Well, graphics from 2006 may have looked pretty good back in 2006. The overhead map for the turn-based part of the game actually is pretty colorful and pretty understandable and not so bad at all. The town maps, on the other hand, they're a little bit muddy, and the buildings are all indiscreet, and it's not nearly as clear or nice as the overhead world maps are. Everything, I must say, looked better with 16x anti-aliasing and 4K resolution, except that it crashed all the time. Also, this game's pre-rendered movies definitely did not age well. The motion cap's no good, the video looks very heavily compressed, etc., etc. When it comes to sound, yeah, there's battle noises. Apparently there's music too, although I don't even remember hearing it. I actually had to start the game up again and be like, oh yeah, there is some generic type medieval music going on. Didn't even notice it when I was actually playing the game. All said, I'm actually going to give this 3 chairs, but that's fairly charitable.
Yeah, considering everything Ven and Empty just said, this game looks dated. Dated. If you zoom in all the way up, you'll see the soldiers, and the models are basically just blocks. You can actually count the polygons on one of the units' heads, but it's not. It's 2016 now, and I get it. Medieval 2 is one of those games that people actually like to play. Hell, if you go on Steam right now, it has 95% positive reviews. I don't know how, but there it is. The music is your typical medieval military beat, and sometimes a choir will sing. Hell, if you get lucky, you'll hear a lady like singing the solo. Yeah, 2 chairs.
All right, so if we round up all that nonsense, that's going to be a solid 2 chairs for the shiny and sounds, but we need to put it in our hand organs, play it with our keyboards and our gerbils, and see how that works out. Well, it's a strategy game, so your standard WASD, plus your Q and your E and your zoomy gerbil wheel of thingies. that works. You just immediately plot down right there. And like, okay, everything, I understand all this. But get ready to hear this next bit 2 more times. But I'm going to be the first to say it. The units are not set and forget. You know, you have your phalanxes laid out and where you're going to attack. You're like, all right, archers, you do this. Cavalry, you do this. Then you want to scroll way over here and do that. Forget that noise. That's not going to fucking happen. Because this game doesn't realize that this is medieval times and they are serf motherfuckers. You're not trying to give them suggestions, but they think you are, Brad. And that is, I got to dig in a chair for that. Because it didn't get me killed to death. I'm going to give it 3 chairs. But it was hella annoying when I was like, you take care of this. All right. Bombardiers, Canada's, whatever you want to call them. You do this. Then I come over here and I'm working with the cavalry and I come back and they're standing around munching on glue sticks going, you need what, my lord? I was like, motherfuckers. All right. That's it.
Absolutely. This is really 2 separate games kind of smooshed into one. You have the overworld, broad area map where you can see different countries and everything, and that's turn-based. Now, the turn-based part of the game actually controls pretty decently. You right-click on stuff to select it, or you left-click on stuff to select it. You right-click on stuff to actually move there. That's all pretty solid. It's when you get into the real-time strategy town battles that things go very, very, very wrong. The AI is dumb. You tell them, okay, I want you to go to this place that's around a corner, and they will just stand there and run into the buildings trying to make a direct line to where you've told them to go. Say, okay, I want you guys to storm through this gate and start attacking people. And they'll just run back and forth in front of the gate because your cavalry is blocking their path, or who knows what. It doesn't even make sense. I got very, very angry at several points when I told my cavalry charge, and they were like, okay, we'll charge up to here and then we'll turn around and da-da-da. The real-time strategy drags it down, so I can only give it 3 chairs.
Yeah, I can't give it 4 chairs here either, because more than once I clicked to select like a battalion, or you can't really select individual units like MT already mentioned. I clicked to select a battalion on the actual game screen itself, and more often than not, it would outright refuse to. So I like to have at the bottom, not the unit screen, as it were, but any of the other screens, because they actually give you some information as you're playing the game. So I'd had to go back and change it back to the Unity screen, and then I'd have to select each battalion individually, then issue the orders on the actual game screen. Why? You're clearly registering sometimes when I select the units from the game screen without having to select them from the bottom panel. Why don't you do that all the time? It's really not that hard. 3 chairs.
All right, so if we put all that together, it gets 2 chairs. 4 can... Wait, hang on. 3 chairs.
3.
There we go. Maths, Vin, for the controls. But now our final category. Is it fun? And this is kind of an important thing we need to address, you know. When you start this game, you have a couple options. You have skirmish mode, and you can go through basically a career type thing. I'm actually not a fan of what they call the Grand Campaign. Not a huge fan of that. However, a quick historical battle, got a bit of all right. Didn't mind doing that. And I've played, a few, and what do I have? Over an hour into this, and I mostly enjoyed myself. That's if you keep the difficulty at medium or below. The next 2 difficulty settings should be labeled because fuck you, and that's why respectively. Because it just turns on, instant.
The AI literally cheats at that.
You will get noped. Infinite spawning armies, and good on anyone that is better at that than I. For me, really the only thing that kills this title is the lack of functioning multiplayer. I mean, I could justify cocking about for a few more hours in, PvP between Jordan and Empty. It would be a very fun video to make with all of us going that. But they just simply were unable to make that work. And we've contacted Feral and they're like, yeah, what is? And that's the thing. Maybe it'll get sorted later. But if you mix all that in with a 19.99 wet stinky price tag for a 10-year-old game, all I can give you is 2 chairs for the fun.
Well, like I was saying, the overworld screen where you're doing turn-based is actually fairly competent. Unfortunately, that's only half the game. The other half of the game is RTS. Now, on the overworld, you can do diplomacy, spying, trade deals, capturing cities. You can even marry off your princess if you want to. It's a fairly competent Civ-esque type game. The RTS segments, on the other hand, are no good. It is so thoroughly broken that it makes me want to scream. The worst part is you can actually skip the RTS segments and just say, do the math and calculate the battle for me. But I refuse to do that. I'm going to play this game, the whole game. I'm not going to roll some dice and have it determine my battles for me. And the RTS segments are where this game is so broken. You'll tell your people to attack people and they'll run into a wall instead. I spent so much time just screaming at my computer saying, no, don't do that, do this instead. And I'm sorry, but my computer didn't listen. So I can only give this 1 chair. I did not have fun.
Yeah, I don't like real-time strategy games. I don't hate them with the same passion that I do uninspired hipster pixel platformers. Omamari. Yeah, weird cough. But I really don't like them either. When I started the second tutorial mission and saw that the game had like that 4X overworld type thing that Empty already described, I was excited? Question mark? I was thinking, OMG, an RTS game I might actually enjoy. And immediately after that, the game froze my system. So I tried it again. Same thing. I started a short campaign with Portugal. The very first mission uses that overworld scenario and another hard lock happened. You know what? Fuck you. 1 chair.
Okay, so if we mix all that together for the fun, it's not looking good, Brad, because that's just 1 chair and our final score of 1 chair. That breaks us down to nope, and that kind of pains me.
Hell no.
It's it needs work. Granted, I don't know exactly how busted this was on the Windows version. I mean, this could just be the game is busted because you got to remember, Feral just ports the game. They're not going to rewrite the damn game, you know? That's their job and that's what they do. But in this current state, especially with the multiplayer, I don't get that, why that's not working. I can't recommend it at that price tag. If you catch this, half off $9.99, I'd say maybe pick it up. It might be worth a play. Empty?
Well, between the crashes and the completely busted AI, if I could have one or the other, if I could have good graphics but stupid AI, maybe I could have made this a 2-chair game. Or if I could have had, smart AI with no graphics whatsoever, it would have done better. But the combination of the both is just an unholy storm of, I don't want to play this anymore. I'm sorry. I see the potential. I see what it could have been, but I don't actually get to play that. So stay away.
Yeah, that bit that Empty mentioned, that was actually pretty interesting. The where you can actually skip the real-time strategy elements and just do the whole 4X thing from the overworld and have the game calculate everything and do it by itself. That was pretty awesome.
That was above my
liked
intelligence level. I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah. That's actually pretty good for, people that like turn-based strategy like me and don't like real-time strategy. They can just play that half of the game and completely skip the rest. But even just that half of the game is completely broken. I didn't change any of the settings. I didn't bother to go into the graphics settings because I figured, you know what? It's a real-time strategy game. I won't care about the graphics one way or another. But it kept hard locking my system. You don't do that. It's 2016. I'm running, admittedly, I'm running an AMD CPU. It's not ideal, I know. But it works well with 90% of the games that come out. It's just those very specific games, and most of them were actually ported by Feral. I'm looking at you, Shadow of Mordor, that tend to not work so well when it comes to AMD. So maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe not. Maybe I'm just talking out of my ass. But this is not a good game. Do not get it.
Well, coming up next, maybe you disagree with what we said. And I just want to say, Feral did very good with Alien Insulation.
Yes.
On AMD hardware.
That they did.
Fan-fucking-tastic job, by the way.
That was pretty good.
All right. Just wanted to get that out there because, if it's good, we're going to say it's good. If it's bad, we're going to say it's bad. That's just how we roll. Full disclosure, Feral did give us keys except for Empty. Empty bought his own copy.
I paid $27 for this.
That's definitely a thing. But if you disagree with what we say, send us some hate mail.